Greetings viewer, this week I'm driving the rather interesting and really pretty Mazda 3 Skyactiv-X. And on top of that, it's also the 100-year anniversary edition, because in 2020 Mazda is celebrating its 100th anniversary. So the current generation Mazda 3 has been on the market for over a year now, but this engine, the Skyactiv-X 2-liter, was not available from the start. It was made available at some point after the car was first revealed. In terms of the way this car looks, because some people find it quite polarizing, I think it looks really rather good. It has an elongated front part that makes it look really rather elegant, and the greenhouse is set further back. This makes the car look sporty, and it tries to pull off the trick of looking like a rear-wheel drive car with a longer hood and a longitudinal engine under it. The front fascia is quite striking, with the recessed headlights and all sorts of curves that go around and make it look interesting and sculptural. It's a very pretty car. From the side, you can see just how low-slung and stretched out it looks. In a good way, it looks really good. But you also notice the C-pillar, which is a cause for a lot of controversy. I personally think the C-pillar looks rather snazzy, but that's just my opinion. And it really works with the fastback style. Had it been a more upright looking hatchback with a more squared off rear end, I don't think it would have looked nowhere near as good as it does now. However, with its actual body shape, I think the C-pillar looks rather good. I also especially like the rear light clusters. I think they are especially pretty, and they are well integrated and they work well with the design. Overall, I think the exterior of this car is very successful. And if you know a bit about Japanese culture, you know that people in Japan really like two countries especially, well, three actually. They are super big fans of the US, they are super big fans of Germany, and they are also super big fans of Italy. And I think that it is this third Italian influence that you can feel when you take all of this car's design in. There is definitely an Italian air about the way this is designed. This example that I'm driving is the 100 years anniversary edition that gets black 18-inch rims, whose center cap is unique, and it has an anniversary logo on it, and there's also a little bit of red accenting if you pay close attention and you spot it. Although you have to step inside the car to really see what this special edition model has to offer. The first thing you'll definitely notice is the red leather interior. You can specify this in lesser Mazda 3s, but in this version, the front seat headrests have the anniversary logo thing embossed, and it adds an extra layer of class. It looks nice, and it's actually quite well made. It doesn't feel like an afterthought. It's something that adds a bit more character to this car. Now, while you can specify this red leather interior, it's actually perforated leather on any Mazda 3, you cannot get it in combination with this contrasting leather here on the dash and on the doors. This two-tone leather is only on the anniversary model. What I really like about this particular version, which is a very high-spec version of the Mazda 3, is that the manufacturer went the extra mile and also color matched the carpets and the mats to the red leather. I think this is actually what struck me the most the first time I opened the door and got aboard this car. Yes, you see the seats, but the look is completed by these matching carpets, and I think they are a very nice touch. This anniversary edition with the Skyactiv-X engine is just under 30,000 euros, but it is a top-of-the-range Mazda 3. So it gets premium touches like very good Bose audio system. The car also has heated seats, a heated steering wheel. The speedo in the center of the dials is actually a digital screen, although the speedo looks very analog and it looks like the other actually analog dials. There's also an electric parking brake, an auto hold function, some piano black around the shifter here, which is remarkably scratched, and this car has just over 5,000 kilometers on its odometer. In front of the shifter there are two cup holders with a lid that opens in a nice damped fashion, and further back is a place to put your smartphone. The infotainment in this car is nothing to write home about, but at the same time it is one of the better systems on the market through its remarkable simplicity. There are no extensive menus and submenus, it's all very easy to understand. Everything is logically arranged. The screen itself, while not huge, it has decent graphics. It's not a touchscreen, but it's actually kind of out of reach. It does feature Android Auto and Apple CarPlay integration, if you want that, and you probably do. Although, if you use it, the traffic sign recognition feature won't work. I think that out of all manufacturers, currently only Mercedes has managed to display both Android Auto and the traffic sign recognition at the same time. The seats themselves are really nice to look at, and they blend comfort and sportiness really well. They aren't the most supportive seats I've ever sat in, but they do a good job of holding you, even if you corner with some extra vigor. I also really like the driving position in this car. You sit about as low as you'd want in it, and thanks to a decent rake and reach adjustment for the steering wheel, you get a nice sporty driving position in this car. The steering wheel is another high point. The design of the steering wheel is quite obviously reminiscent of the previous generation BMW M or M Sport steering wheel. Unlike the BMW steering wheel though, the rim is not as thick or as padded. It's still very nice to the touch. The leather is remarkably high quality feeling. I like it. And the leather finish actually extends all the way to the center of the steering wheel on these two horizontal spokes. So wherever you touch it on these spokes, on the upper part of these spokes anyway, you are greeted by this very premium feeling leather. Not everything about the interior is perfect though. For instance, the center armrest, which you can slide back, well, it actually intrudes on passenger space. So if you have a third passenger in the back, you might hit their knee when you do it. So be careful. I think this could have been done a bit better and smarter. I'm not really sure what solution would have been better, but this is not ideal. There's also not that much space in the back. I am 183 centimeters tall, and I don't really fit behind myself. There is this recess in the rear part of the backrest where you can jam your knees, and you do fit eventually, but it's not a particularly comfortable place to sit for someone of my size. Headroom is also not great, thanks to the sloping roofline. And the side windows are also quite small and claustrophobic. This is the trade-off for having the very rakish looking window line that rises towards the rear. So Mazda has clearly put a bit of sporting character into this suspension setup, and the car doesn't roll much. It gives you confidence to push, although I have seen reviews where people are complaining that the car tends to understeer. I've pushed it fairly hard, as I do, and it never really wanted to go straight on me. I don't know. Maybe the people who experienced the understeer were driving cars with different tire setups. This one is currently on winter tires. This is definitely an enjoyable little car to cruise in. It doesn't really edge you on to drive it in a sporty fashion, but it can certainly take it if you fancy a more spirited drive from time to time. Although you do have to downshift a lot in order to access the power. And this brings us neatly to the engine. So I'm sure you've seen reviews where they go into a lot of detail about how the engine works. So I'm going to try to sum it up in order to not bore you with the same information you've heard before. This is a 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated 2-liter engine that runs on gasoline or petrol. But in order to meet strict emissions regulations, Mazda has changed its running cycle from that of a traditional 4-stroke engine to a combination of a traditional auto cycle engine with a compression ignition engine or a diesel engine. So in essence, for the first part of the cycle, it injects a very lean mixture into the cylinder. That means little fuel and a lot of air. And as the piston rises, approaching the end of its stroke, additional gas is injected into the top of the cylinder, and it is ignited by a spark, but not a spark big enough to ignite the entire mixture, but through a combination of the pressure created by the piston that rises and the small amount of extra gasoline injected into the engine at the right time, the mixture detonates as it does in a diesel engine, and that's essentially how you get the power. Mazda says that this engine should return 5.4 liters per 100 kilometers on the combined cycle, and I think that realistically you should expect to see that on the extra urban cycle. If you drive it in town, especially if it's quite congested out, you should really expect it to return somewhere around 8, 9, maybe even 10 if you step on it a little bit more. So how does this engine feel? Well, it has 180 horsepower and 224 Newton meters of torque. The lower power, the Skyactiv-G engine, has 214 Newton meters of torque, and this has 224. However, the torque peaks around 1,000 RPM lower than it does in the Skyactiv-G. What does this translate to in real-world driving conditions? Well, you have to work the gearbox quite hard to extract the performance. Now I'm going up a hill in third gear at 3,500, 4,000. It does pull, but you also understand, well, you understand it sounds pretty good after 6,000. But you understand just how much more usable torque a turbocharged engine has. It just takes a bit of time to get going. And in order to really make the most of this 180 horsepower output, you really have to rev it close to 6,000 RPM. And if you've mostly driven newer cars, from other manufacturers, cars from the same size and price category as the Mazda 3, there is a chance you may have forgotten what a naturally aspirated engine feels like. And this one feels really good. As it stands, this Mazda 3 Anniversary Edition with the Skyactiv-X engine with the 30,000 euro price tag is, well, it's an interesting buy. It's a car you are going to buy with your heart, not your head, even though it's a very solid and quite well engineered and well put together car with a premium feel inside. It has very unique and, I say, very pretty design on the outside that sets it apart from all its rivals. The Mazda 3 is definitely a recommendable car, although I'm not quite sure I can recommend the Skyactiv-X, given its price premium and negligible performance or efficiency differences. Like, yeah, you get more torque lower down, but it's still not that much torque, and it takes its time to accelerate. This is third gear flat out. So yeah, this is my conclusion about the quite pretty, nice feeling, nice driving, nice to own Mazda 3.